People want to know what 15-minute cities look like. This is it. They tell you. You can work. You can shop. It's literally telling you. All these are apartments and parking spaces where people live. Just around the corner from the restaurants, they have beautiful scenery. Look at this, office spaces where you can just go to work from your apartment. Go right to work. And then on your lunch break, look at this. Nice little spot to eat. Look right by your apartment. See the apartments I just walked from right over there? You got your jobs right here. I haven't even walked 5 minutes. I've seen a convenience store, 2 restaurants. Oh my God, what is this? Nike running studio? You mean Nike's gonna let me do my fitness here? Oh man. Yeah, more apartments. More apartments by your jobs. You guys have a dentist office right here by the Nike? I can get my teeth done right by my fitness? This is an office space / apartments, so you can actually work and live in the same building. Then right in the middle, you have a retirement home, just for the old folks to chill out, pass the rest of their lives away. Right here in your 15-minute city.
It's something in the astrology and my astrology chart where everything is coming to a head and to an end. Like, I just feel like it's a complete ending, like a new beginning, I should say. I just feel it. And I remember when I was in my apartment months ago, I was just like, something's going to happen towards the end of the summer, especially for me, like a huge shift. Like, I have never in my life felt to get away from my hometown, my family, anybody I have ever known. I have never felt the need to leave and to escape like I have felt before. I have never felt this before spiritually. And how I got so into spirituality within the last couple years and made a relationship with my ancestors and really decentered and deconstructed, something feels like it's a complete new beginning for my life. I have never felt to get away from everything and everyone I have ever known. And it's meant in my life. I knew in my life, I always felt like in my 30s or my mid 30s or my late 30s or my 30s in general, that I was going to leave. I have never felt this before. Never. Is anybody else feeling this? Like,
spirituality, nobody can teach it to you. You need to get the fundamentals of any books, any spiritual system. You can get the fundamentals and then look at inside of you and then determine how you are going to use the fundamental principles to improve your life. But nobody can tell you, you must pray every Friday, you must do this every Saturday, you must do that every Sunday. No. Because what is good for you is not necessarily what I need. You may need to go into yourself and meditate 100 times a day. And even the same person will not need it the same way all the time. You, in certain circumstances, you need to be meditating and finding all your forces, gathering all your forces continuously certain days. And then other days you may not even think about it. It doesn't mean you don't pray. Because everything you say, if you're living your own life, if you are who you are and you know who you are and you live working towards realizing your mission in life, Every sound of it out of your mouth is a prayer. Every gesture you make is a prayer. Every dance you dance is a prayer. And when you make love with somebody, you are praying. If you know who you are and this person knows who they are.
That's right. That's right.
There isn't anything that you do that is not a prayer. When you know who you are.
Listen, a nigga could be showing clear signs of psychosis right now, but all my spiritual folks, all my mental health folks, I need y'all help in the comments. What the fuck is going on right now? I'm talking about nigga don't shit feel right. Nigga genuinely feel like I'm in the Truman Show or some shit. Like I can't trust no fucking body right now. And I don't know, this shit feel weird. And the thing is, I've never been the type of nigga that just wanted to isolate and be away from everybody. But some genuinely don't feel right on some shit. And the thing is, a nigga like me ain't never been confused like this. I've always been secure as shit. And now all of a sudden, a nigga just feel so uncertain on some shit. But all my spiritual folks, let me know in the comments, like, is it some type of curse on me or some shit? Like, I could easily be tweaking on some foozy shit, but let me know.
Can you please explain what are crystals?
My definition of crystals, just being a biochemist, studying organic matter, or what they would call organic or inorganic material. A crystal is a organic solid material that have fractal patterns eternally within itself. Meaning it can be a mineral, it can be glass, it can come from any elements, but inside of it, the atoms are highly, highly, highly organized where they reflect themselves and have basically a fractal that constantly repeats itself. That's a crystal. And the reason why crystals are so important to our body is because not only do our body synthesize crystals called liquid crystals or liquid crystallines, we actually have it within inside of our molecular structure. And inside your brain, you have like trillions of what you will call magnetite crystals. Then around each different cells is called the cytoskeleton of the cell. Even inside of our cytoplasma, you have something called cholesterol, LDL cholesterol and HDL cholesterol. When these things mix with mucus around the cells, they form something called liquid crystals. And all crystals it's these organic patterns that act as receptors and antennas to your outside environment. So your skin acts as a receptor where it scans the environment and it brings signals back to the environment, and it tells your molecular structure how to change to interact with the environment. Well, what this signal is interacting with, not only is it interacting with the environment, but when it brings the signal back, it brings the signal to the actual liquid crystals, and the liquid crystals actually go through something called DNA methylation, where DNA methylation changes the genome, and this changes how you interact with your environment. So crystals are amazing. And not only that, crystals are powerful because they actually operate at a certain frequency. They call it microhertz, and your body and your cells have certain microhertz to them. If you look at the volts of each individual cell in your body, the body consists of 150 trillion cells. These cells have a 0.07 volt that's actually megawatt volt that's coming from them. This is actually electrified or magnified by the actual liquid crystals inside the body. So crystals are amazing. Your body is made of crystals. Cell phones are made of crystals. Computers are made of crystals. This new nanotechnology that they're using for televisions is made of crystals. The very camera, the glass in there, these are crystals. So without crystals, you really can't function properly, because crystals actually magnify and it's a receptor to the electrical magnetic grid of the earth. So crystals are very important, and crystal work is important too.
What advice would you give to someone choosing the proper crystals for them?
You have to go by feel. Now, you do have different types of tests where you can test the crystals and you can test the microhertz on those, but a lot of people, they're not accessible to a lot of people. So what you can do is go by how you feel. We know that energy and motion, or what you call emotions, is based off the chemical exchanges within our body or within our molecular structures, right? So the best thing to do to see if a crystal works for you or not is grab the crystal. If your microhertz go down, that means it's a bad crystal for you. If your microhertz or your energetic field go up, that means it's good for you. But there have been tests shown that, you can get a crystal and they take them to these test rooms or these test sites, and inflammation will increase because the crystal is too energetic. or it'll be too low and it'll drain them from all their energy. So I say just trust your body, trust your electrical magnetic grid of your body, trust your own energy, emotions, or what we call emotions, and test the crystal. Keep it on you. And the beautiful thing about crystals, you don't have to have it right against your skin, because it's all working off of signals in the biofield, or what we call the electrical magnetic grid. This is a grid that permeates outside of our body the same way it permeates outside of the earth. So get around a crystal, always stay within 6 feet of the crystal, and then you got to be silent your mind, silent the noises around you, and feel how your body feel. If your body feel good, if your body feel in balance, if you're feeling homeostasis, that's a good crystal to use. Mine is quartz. Clear quartz is amazing with me. Amethyst works amazing with me. Rose quartz works amazing with me. Obsidians do not work good with me though. Whenever I get around an obsidian, I feel lower and hurts. I feel like it's draining my energy. So I tend to don't even be around those. So it's about trusting in you, trusting your feelings, trusting your gut instinct, and trusting your own molecular bioelectrical grid of your own body.
Can you elaborate what it means when you said it works good for you, so people know? So
it works good for me in the sense it keeps me balanced. It clears a lot of traumatic experience. It silences my thoughts. I'm into information. I speak to thousands of people monthly, so I'm traveling. So I still get self-doubt a lot too. So, one of my exercises, or one of the tools or utensils that I pull out my spiritual tool bag will be the crystals. So it helps me deal with, what would I say? It helps me deal with my own thoughts. And it's healing too though. Crystals, it's been tested. There's plenty, it's about 1,300 different peer-reviewed science papers. There's 1,300 of them. These things is figured out in 1992. Is when they start really figuring out the body, and start figuring out that the actual, meridian pathways of the body exist. It was 2 French scientists that they injected the body. It was an Indian yogi and it was a Ayurvedic yogi, and they came together and they was proving that, chakras exist. That was proven that the electrical magnetic grid of the body exists, and it was proven that you have something called meridian pathways. They actually, at some of the points, these acupuncture points, they ejected this radioactive fluid. And when they ejected this fluid, it actually mapped out the body, just like the ancient Indians and the ancient Chinese have been talking about for thousands and thousands of years. And they literally put radioactive fluid in there, and they traced it out, and it showed all the meridian points. It showed all the lymphatic neurological points, and it showed the whole pathway of how this energy just flows through the body. Now, what's crazy is all of these energy points met in 7 centers of the body. And these 7 centers are what you'll call the chakras, or we'll call the endocrine system. So we can't even play like these are spookism or that it don't exist. They exist. Clinical trials show it. There's over 1,300 peer-reviewed science papers that talks about this. Talk about what they used to do it with. Talked about the injection, the radioactive fluid that they did, and everything. And it was exactly how the so-called Chinese took that, because of course it all came from our people. But the Chinese, it was handed down to the Chinese. And the crazy thing, I want to say this real quick. It's funny how everybody else around us took our knowledge and preserved it, but we threw our knowledge away.
Crystals are ancient technology, okay? They're technology. Crystals are literally light that has become solid, okay? So they're balls of information, okay? So pertaining to in our physical world, what would crystals relate to? What would they be just like in this physical world? Well, crystals would be compared to computers, okay? Crystals are literally nature's computers, okay? That's the type of technology that crystals are. They're technology, but they're nature technology, and they're computers, all right? They store information in nature. They can store your information. They can store information based on anything, okay? Tons and tons and tons of information in one small tiny crystal. So that's the first thing you guys need to understand. When you're carrying a crystal around, you're carrying a piece of technology, okay? And it's not just a piece of, it's not just a stone, it's not a weight. These things are alive. They're living, breathing computers, okay? This is what artificial intelligence wants to be like, crystals, okay? So crystals are living, breathing technology. So when you have a computer, you need an operating system for that. You need to activate that crystal, okay? And then you need to feed that crystal energy. You need to feed it, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about here. So crystals are technology. That's the first thing you guys need to understand. Crystals are technology, and you can program them to pretty much do anything you want, okay? Now, some crystals are already pre-programmed by nature to do specific things. But what people don't know is that you can increase the energy of what it does. So let's take, for example, if you have a crystal that deals with love, you can increase how much love that crystal gives out, or who it gives the love to, or who it stops from breaking your heart, or from hurting you, or taking your love away. You can literally program a crystal for those type of things. Okay, so that's very important. So starting out, when you guys pick up a crystal, I want you to understand you're holding technology.
This clip really challenges the way that a lot of people have been taught to see crystals. A lot of people look at crystals and think, okay, it's just a pretty rock. But from a spiritual perspective, many people believe there is much more happening beneath the surface. This clip is exploring the idea that crystals are not just objects. They are a form of ancient technology. And honestly, when you look at how crystals have been used throughout history, it's pretty easy to understand why they've held such a powerful place in different cultures. Ancient civilizations use crystals in rituals, jewelry, healing practices, all types of ceremonies. They saw them as something connected to energy, the earth, and the unseen world. The idea being presented is that crystals are like nature's computers. When you think about that comparison, I would say it's pretty accurate because we already know that crystals have unique properties. Modern technology uses crystals in many ways. You've got quartz crystals, for example. They have been used in watches, electronics, different forms of technology, all because of their ability to produce consistent vibrations under certain conditions. So, the idea that crystals have a relationship with energy and information is not completely foreign. The spiritual interpretation takes that idea a step further. It suggests that crystals are not only interacting with physical energy, but also with consciousness, that they can hold, amplify, or respond to intention. And this is where the conversation moves into the idea of programming crystals. The belief is that when someone works with the crystal, they are not just holding a stone, they are actually creating a relationship with it, setting intentions, focusing energy, using the crystal as a tool for meditation, reflection, personal growth, as well as protection. Now, whether someone sees this as spiritual technology, symbolism, or simply a mindfulness practice, I think there is something powerful about the intention behind it because our minds are incredibly influenced by the meaning we attach to things. A crystal can become a reminder, a physical symbol of an intention, a way to pause and reconnect with yourself. For example, someone working with rose quartz, they may associate it with love, compassion, and emotional healing. Someone using amethyst may connect it with intuition or spiritual awareness. The crystal itself becomes part of a deeper practice. And I think that's why these objects have remained important across cultures. We have always used physical objects to connect with invisible concepts. We wear symbols, we create sacred spaces. The object may be physical, but the meaning we give it can be deeply personal. Now, the idea of crystals being balls of information or carrying a certain energy, that idea is something that many spiritual traditions believe, that everything in nature has a form of energy or a consciousness, which is very true. The earth is not just a collection of resources, but something we are connected to, a living system, a source of wisdom. And maybe that's why crystals feel so fascinating to so many people because they represent a connection between the physical and the unseen, something solid that reminds us of something energetic. something from the earth that invites us to slow down and to become more intentional. I think the deeper message here is not just about the crystal itself, it's about awareness. How are we interacting with the world around us? Are we seeing everything as lifeless objects? Or are we recognizing that nature has patterns, frequencies, and structures that we're still learning to understand? Because the more we learn about the universe, the more we realize there are still so many things that we don't fully understand. For many people on a spiritual path, crystals represent a reminder that there is more happening than what we can immediately see. So maybe the question isn't just, do crystals work? Maybe the deeper question is, what relationship do we have with the energy around us? How do we use intention? How do we connect with nature? How do we create meaning in the objects and practices that support our physical journey? Because at the end of the day, whether someone sees crystals as spiritual technology or energetic tools, they continue to remind people of something important, that we are connected to the earth and our own consciousness. We are connected to the mysteries that still surround this experience that we call life.
Diagram is from the United States Patent and Trademark Office. It is the blueprint of a marriage. Did you know the states patented a marriage? Yeah. For all those of thinking about getting married or are married, this is for you. Or those that are divorced, it's still for you. See, the state is the primary in the contract. The state joins with the husband and then enjoins with the wife. There is no direct line connection between the husband and the wife. Enjoins. Enjoins. Joins and enjoins. Enjoins just means second position joinery. Okay? So the state joins with the husband, enjoins with the wife. There's no direct line between the husband and the wife. That is a broken line. Any architect or engineer will tell you that a broken line on a blueprint is a beam that bears no weight. And they put God on that line. So God bears no weight in the contract. When you get married with the state, God bears no weight in the contract. The state is the primary contract holder under the doctrine of parens patriae. And if the husband wants to deal with the wife, they have to go through the state. If the wife wants to deal with the husband, they have to go through the state, and so on. Yeah. Yeah. And they tell you you have to get a divorce if you want to separate. When you get a divorce, you're still under contract with the state. So you still have to work through the state. Even if you've been divorced 30 years, you work with the state. They get involved in every aspect of your life between the two of you with the state.
Marriage. but not marriage from the romantic or spiritual side. We are looking at marriage through the lens of contracts, government systems, and personal sovereignty. And I think that's why this topic gets people talking. Because when most of us think about marriage, we usually think about love as well. We think about two people choosing each other, building a life together, making promises, creating a bond. But there's another layer that comes into play when marriage becomes legally recognized, and that is paperwork, the law, the rights and responsibilities that come with that legal agreement. And that brings up the question, what happens when something that feels deeply personal and spiritual also becomes connected to a legal system? The guy in the video is interpreting a diagram that they believe represents the structure of a state recognized marriage. Their argument is that the state becomes the central connection in that legal agreement between husband and wife. They're looking at the way the diagram is laid out and saying, like, hold on, where is the direct connection between the two people? And this is where the conversation actually gets pretty interesting, because marriage really does exist in different layers. There is the spiritual meaning that people attach to it, the idea of two souls coming together, the commitment between God, the universe, or whatever higher power that someone believes in. Then there is the emotional side, the love, the trust, the partnership. And then there is the legal side. The government recognizes the marriage and creates a legal framework around it. Those things can exist at the same time, but they are not always the same thing. And I think that's the part that makes people start asking deeper questions, because something can be spiritually meaningful while always being legally structured. A wedding ceremony may be deeply sacred to someone, but the marriage license is still a legal document. Yes, both can exist together. Now, I took notice how he brings up the idea that if the state is involved in the legal structure of marriage, then the state has authority over certain parts of that relationship. And when you think about it from a practical standpoint, that's why things like divorce have a legal process. The court system isn't deciding whether two people love each other, it's handling the legal side of separating shared assets, responsibilities, and agreements. But from a spiritual perspective, some people look at this and ask a bigger question. Have we allowed outside systems to define things that were once considered sacred? And honestly, that's a conversation that goes way beyond marriage. People have been questioning the relationship between personal choices and larger systems for a while. For a while now. How much control do institutions have over our lives? How much authority do we give away without even thinking twice about it? And how do we balance being a part of society while still honoring our own beliefs and values? Those are very valid questions, because at the end of the day, systems are created by humans, laws are created by humans, as well as institutions. And throughout history, people have always questioned whether those systems, whether they truly reflect the deeper meaning behind the things that they govern. One thing I find interesting is the symbolism, the idea that a diagram, a line, or a structure can represent something deeper. We have always used symbols to communicate ideas. Ancient civilizations have done this. Religious traditions have done it as well. Even modern systems use symbols to represent power and authority. So, whether someone agrees with the interpretation of this diagram or not, the bigger conversation is still worth exploring. What makes a marriage truly meaningful? Is it the legal documents? Is it the ceremony? Is it the intention behind the commitment? The connection between the two people? I think a lot of people would say it's something deeper than paperwork because a piece of paper does not create love or trust or loyalty. Those things come from the people involved. I think a lot of people would say it's something deeper than paperwork because a piece of paper alone doesn't create love, you know? It doesn't create loyalty. It doesn't create trust either. Those things come from the people that are involved in the agreements. But at the same time, understanding the legal side of things is extremely important as well. Because awareness gives us the ability to make conscious choices, not just accepting things because that's how they've always been done, but taking the time to understand what we are participating in and why. Because the more aware we become, the more intentional we can be. And maybe that's the real question that this clip leaves us with. How do we honor the spiritual meaning behind our connections while also understanding the systems that exist around them? Because both sides are a part of the world that we live in. Both sides are a part of it. And understanding both gives a deeper perspective. There are certain topics that make you stop and look at everyday life a little differently. Things that we interact with all the time, things that seem ordinary on the surface. But when you take a deeper look, you start asking different questions. You start wondering, why do we believe what we believe? Where did certain traditions come from? And I think that curiosity is where a lot of spiritual exploration begins. When it comes to marriage, most people naturally think about love. Two people choosing each other and building a life together, making promises, creating a bond. And that emotional and spiritual connection is a major part of why marriage holds so much meaning for people. But there is also another side that exists when marriage becomes legally recognized. There are documents, agreements, there's laws and systems that define certain rights and responsibilities. And this is where conversations like this start to raise questions. Questions about the relationship between personal commitment and legal structure because something can carry deep emotional and spiritual meaning while also existing within a larger system. A promise between two people can come from the heart. A commitment can feel sacred, and a legal agreement can still exist alongside it. The deeper question becomes this: how aware are we of the systems that shape our lives? How often do we stop and think about the agreements that we participate in? How much do we really understand about the structures that influence our everyday decisions? And I think those questions are worth exploring, not from a place of fear, but from a place of awareness. Because understanding something gives us the ability to make more conscious choices. Now, shifting into the conversation about crystals. Across different cultures, people have looked at nature and seen more than just physical objects. They found meaning in the stars, in plants, in water, in the earth itself. Crystals have been used throughout history in spiritual practices, rituals, even traditions, because many people believe they hold a connection to energy, intention, and the natural world. For some people, crystals are spiritual tools. For others, they are reminders of personal intentions. Some people appreciate them simply for their beauty and the incredible way they form in nature. But what I think is interesting is the relationship we've always had with these natural elements. There's something powerful about holding something that formed over time, something that existed before us, something that connects us back to the earth. In a world where everything moves so fast, there is something grounding about slowing down and reconnecting with nature. And maybe that's part of why so many people are drawn to practices involving crystals and intentional living, because they create moments where we can pause, we can reflect, we can reconnect with ourselves. The deeper conversation here is really about awareness. How do we view the world around us? Do we only see things as physical objects, or do we also recognize the meaning, the connection, and the symbolism that we have created with those things throughout history? Because spirituality is not just about learning information, it's about how that knowledge changes the way we experience life. Does it make us more present? Does it encourage us to look deeper? Does it help us understand ourselves and our connection to the world around us? That's where personal growth happens. Sometimes the biggest discoveries are not only about finding something new, sometimes they're about seeing familiar things from a completely different perspective. Looking deeper into the traditions that we follow, the beliefs we carry, and the choices that we make every single day. Because maybe the journey of awareness is not about having every answer. Maybe it's about staying curious enough to keep asking better questions. Questions that expand our understanding, that challenge us to think, and help us become more intentional about the way we live. With that being said, I thank you so much for making it this far in the video. I appreciate you for spending this time with me today. I want you to share your thoughts below, and I will see you in the very next video.